Sure guys, so in this video we are going to tear down the engine, the Cax 1.4 TSI engine. We are going to tear it down, then do an inspection, because the vehicle had low oil pressure issue and it was smoking. So I've already removed the engine from the vehicle. If you want that part, you can somewhere comment there in the comment section, because there are people who are requesting longer videos. So this is one of them. They are saying these longer videos, they help them because they are still learning. So do comment there in the comment section. You can correct me if you saw I missed a step, or if you have any recommendations, you can recommend there. So it's how they learn, I can imagine. So if you are watching a video, then you go through the comments, then you see, okay, they corrected him here and there, then that's how you learn. So that's how I also learn. If you correct me there, then I know, okay. But don't make those unnecessary corrections, guys, man. Imagine you are telling me that I must not use a ratchet, I must use a breaker bar. I've been using these things for so long and I've never broken a ratchet. I know if a bolt is hard and I can feel it in my hand that this one is gonna break the ratchet, I won't use a ratchet on that bolt. So I'll change and use a breaker bar. So those are some of the unnecessary comments, man, because I've been doing this for a while. I know there are those who like acting like they know everything by the book, and also you can never follow the book always. Sometimes you just use whatever you see next to you, you just improvise. So it's one of those things. As you can see, I'm still removing the clutch kit and the flywheel here so that I can hook the engine stand on the bell housing. So yeah, it's one of those things, guys. Please, let's help other people. And remember, other guys, they lack tools or resources. So sometimes I'm trying to show them that you can do it without a workshop. You can do it without this kind of tools. You can do it without this and that. You see, all you need is a knowledge, and you have to do some research about that vehicle first, so that you know the torque settings, the sequence, all those things. So yeah, it's one of those things. Others will comment and say, why didn't you use an angle what do you call it, angle gauge or something like that, that thing that is having degrees on it? I do have that thing, but you know, when you're doing 90 degrees is simple, 60 degrees is simple, so you don't really need those things. That's why I'm saying I'm helping those who are lacking resources or tools. Someone doesn't have that angle gauge or whatever, so yeah, it's one of those things. You can see I'm lifting up the engine so that I can fit it on the engine stand. So yeah, guys, but thank you very much for subscribing, liking and sharing my videos. Let's support one another. Keep commenting there, recommendations, corrections, all those things. We are helping other guys. I'm not actually teaching people or showing people how to do things, no. I'm just showing people how I do things, and if it may work for you, if how I do things works for you, then yeah, it also works for me. I've been doing it for a while. I've rebuilt a lot of cars, and even now they're not having issues. So the normal steps, sometimes people, when they, let me give you an example. That's why I keep saying, okay, here, let me not talk too much. Here, I'm just showing you what I'm gonna remove in order to tear down this engine. You can see there the injectors, I've already removed the intake manifold. I'm gonna remove the exhaust manifold, and also here I'm showing you things that are broken. This engine was worked on before, so the person who was working on this engine, he didn't put back most of the bolts. Others are broken. That's why I'm saying, hey, working on an engine that was being worked on before is stressful, guys. So I didn't know, and I'm only doing a favor for this person because I know him. So it's stressful working on an engine that has been touched before by another mechanic and who didn't do a good job, because you'll notice a lot of things, they are not right here. Broken bolts, unfitted bolts is one of those jobs whereby someone is finished and there's still bolts on the ground. So yeah, we're going to try to sort it out, inspect it, and if we, because some of the things I can sort them out on my own. Like if maybe I need to polish the crank, I'll polish it, but sometimes you can see that this crank is damaged, so I have to take it to the engineering if it's damaged. And if the block is also having, I'm suspicious of the block, I'll also take it that side, because sometimes you cannot see with your own eyes that this thing is damaged. So I'll take the block and the crank to the engineering shop. So here I'm still trying to tear down the engine. Sorry for putting the camera far. So as we continue, you'll see I'll try to get the camera close, because remember I'm still new in this, guys, so bear with me. And if you see it's taking time on one thing, you can try to fast forward it. There are other people I know, when you want to learn, you'll watch everything, just like I used to do it. When I want to see how something is done, I'll watch everything, even when how they fasten the bolt. Because remember, there are things that let me give you an example with some BMWs or Audi, something like that. There are bolts that, including the Golf 7 GTI, there are bolts that you have to fasten them anti-clockwise. Remember, when you fasten a bolt, you have to fasten it clockwise. But there are those special bolts that are having special thread. I don't know what do they call them. But when you fasten it anti-clockwise, and when you unfasten it, you fasten it clockwise. So those things are very important. I once almost broke an Audi oil pump sprocket bolt, because I didn't know that you have to, when you unfasten it, you have to unfasten it clockwise. So it's one of those things that you must do proper research. You must check everything on the video, how it's done. So that's how a lot of things were done, or I can say that's how I learned a lot of things. You do research, you watch everything, how a person does those things. So yeah. Hey guys, editing. You see here I'm removing the intake manifold, but on that video I've already removed it. So hey, bear with me, guys. You'll see I'll be a master in this thing of editing YouTube videos. I'll even add those sounds and music and all those things. On a quiet video I'll add music, but here I'm still trying to explain. But either way, let me try to tell you a story about this low oil pressure issues and cars with low oil pressure issues and ignorant drivers. You see, a person will call you and say, I'm experiencing a low oil pressure light. You know what others do? I've experienced it. I'm talking about experience now. Other owners, you tell them, okay, if it's having a low oil pressure light, please don't drive it. And you know what others do? When they see a low oil pressure light, they don't even check the oil. I know someone who saw a low oil pressure light and filled up the engine oil with an extra 5 liters. So that car was having about 10 liters of oil in it, and the engine just somehow shut down. And there are others, you will tell them that don't drive the car with a low oil pressure. They will still drive it saying, it's still local. There's a lot of things that are happening with a low oil pressure light. If you see a low oil pressure light, or you can see here I'm showing you the broken bolts and also the missing bolts on the manifold. So as I was saying, with the low oil pressure light, other people, they ignore that low oil pressure light and they drive the car locally up and down. Guys, once you see a low oil pressure light, it's very important that you either stop driving that car or you get help, because there's a lot of things. That light is trying to tell you that there's a place where the oil is not reaching, or the oil is not enough. There's not enough lubricant to lubricate that place. For example, if oil is not properly lubricating the bearings and the crankshaft, That's whereby you'll end up having a catastrophic engine failure, whatever they call it. So what happens is that I always show you the bearings and the crankshaft of the low oil pressure, the result of low oil pressure. It damages the crankshaft, and sometimes it damages the cylinder, sleeves, or whatever they call it. Sometimes the language runs away, bear with me. So that's why most of the time a person won't even hear an engine knock or a rattling sound. If you hear a rattling sound or a knock, it's too late. The damage has already been done. But sometimes you won't hear those things, only to find it's still chowing the crank or the bearings, or still chowing the cylinder sleeves. You understand? That's why most of them, the low oil pressure issue. Sometimes you might be lucky, you report a low oil pressure issue and the mechanic just changes the oil pump without inspecting the bearings and all those things. Then the low oil pressure issue stops, because maybe you are lucky, it didn't damage a lot of things. Sometimes they do change everything, the oil pump, the sensors, and the bearing. You'll still get that low oil pressure light, because somehow maybe it's blocked or it's clogged, or the oil is not passing properly, you see. So I can give you an example with the previous CLP. You remember that gold CLP I was sorting out, the Polo Vivo 1.4 CLP. You know what happened? The owner took it to a mechanic. It broke the pistons. The owner took it to a mechanic. The mechanic decided, okay, buy the pistons. They bought the pistons without inspecting the crank, without inspecting the block. They bought the pistons, they replaced the pistons. Then he didn't even take the cylinder head to the shop. He just put the top gasket, reused the bolt, then he replaced the pistons, closed everything. Then the car started, it's fine. The car will still start. Remember, he didn't sort out what caused the low oil pressure. The owner came to me. He said, there's still a low oil pressure popping out on my dashboard. So can you help me? I told the owner that, you know what, we must start with the sensor. He said, no, I already took it to a person. We changed the sensor. Okay, if you change the sensor, then it means there's low oil pressure. So let me do an oil pressure test. I tested the oil pressure. I said, okay, according to this, I'm not getting enough bars for the oil pressure. So meaning we must change the oil pump, because it's not an electrical issue. He said, no, the previous mechanic, he changed the oil pump. They bought the oil pump, they gave it to the previous mechanic. So they changed everything. I said, okay, call him and confirm. They called him, then he confirmed. He also said he took the engine to the cylinder head to engineering. Okay, then remember, I'm working on someone's story now. That's why I'm saying I no longer want cars that are from other mechanics. I'm working on another mechanic story. So now the issue is, okay, he changed the oil pump, he took the cylinder head to engineering, meaning they inspected it, so it's not having an issue. Okay, I opened, then I checked. The bearings were worn. Then I took out the crank. The crank was also worn. I took it to the engineering shop. They said, okay, the crank is worn. You see, that mechanic did a half job. He was supposed to take out take the block and the crank to the engineering shop for inspection. So he didn't take those things. Then we called him. Then he said, no, I didn't take the block and the crank. I just replaced the pistons, the broken pistons. I said, okay. And the cylinder head is still having marks showing that the piston hit the cylinder head when they were braking. So we took the crank for grinding. Then we got new bearing sizes from standard to 10,000. Then we put those things there. We replaced everything. Remember, they said, they even confirmed that the oil pump, many times, they even confirmed that they changed the oil pump. Sharp. I changed the bearings. Remember, I'm sorting out the low oil pressure issue. So I'm sorting out the clearance of the crankshaft and the bearings. Simple as that. Because they changed everything, but they didn't take the crank to the engineering shop. Sharp. We got back, I put the bearings, I put the crank, then everything I closed. The sump was having leaks and it was having broken bolts. So I fixed those things. The sump was not having leaks. Then new bearings, the crank is fine. Then we started the car. The car drove. The low oil pressure light came back. Now with noisy, intermediate, noisy lifters. The lifters are making noise sometimes are not making noise. The owner brought back the car. That's why I'm saying these cars from other mechanics are having a lot of drama. So remember, I don't have return jobs. That's why if I'm not able to fix your car, you don't pay. You don't even pay for stripping and assembling. I just give you a car like that. If I told you the problem maybe is the oil pump, then I change the oil pump, is still doing the same thing. You don't pay me. You take your car just like that. Then maybe you'll take it to another mechanic, or you leave it. Then it stays here until I get it right. So the car is back. Then they tell me the light is back. Okay. Noisy lifters. Okay. Are you sure that guy changed the oil pump? They called him again. That guy confirmed I changed the oil pump. They also said they bought the oil pump, they gave it to that guy. And I told them, no. I checked everything. I cleaned the top. I even used a compressor to clean the oil passages before putting in the crank. I cleaned the oil passages on the crank. I cleaned everything. So if you're still complaining of low oil pressure, it means it's the oil pump. They said they bought the oil pump. I said, no, now I don't know what to do, because there's no other thing that can cause that low oil pressure issue. The noisy lifters, it means they are not getting enough oil. Said, okay, you can buy the lifters if you want. I'll put them for free. Then they bought the lifters. I installed them for free. It was quiet at first. Then it started again making noise. And I was like, no, guys, are you sure this guy changed the oil pump? They said, they changed it. Okay. Now I don't know. If he changed the oil pump, it's fine. I don't know what else now, because obviously this is caused by a bad oil pump. The pressure is not enough. I even put it on the pressure test. I have the pressure test. They said, they changed the oil pump. You see what happens? Remember, I did my job of fixing the crank clearances. Now, if you're working with someone who doesn't understand cars, they will think maybe you were just trying to rob them. But no, I was fixing the problem at that time, the crank bearing clearance, which was causing low oil pressure, which is possible that it causes low oil pressure. And the light went off, but it came back again. Do you see what happens? It goes back to that story of that guy who didn't change the oil pump, who lied about changing the oil pump. Remember, first you must sort out if a car overheats. You cannot just come and change the top gasket or change the water pump. Okay, don't include the water pump. You cannot just come and change the top gasket. Remember, the water pump is the one that may cause the top gasket to blow and water to mix, because it's gonna overheat, or the fan. Before you fix that overheating issue, you must first diagnose what caused that issue. You don't just come and replace the top gasket. I don't know if you understand me, guys. Before you fix something, try to find out what caused that thing. So this guy just changed the pistons without finding out what caused those pistons to break. Obviously, they broke because of low oil pressure caused by what? The oil pump not supplying enough pressure. So you see, that makes me the bad person also. Now the owner is fighting, is saying, no, I paid you to make this car proper. So now I must defend myself and say, hey, you said they replaced the oil pump, and now the symptoms I'm getting is of the oil pumps. Remember, if the oil pump was in a good condition, then it means the car was gonna be fine after fixing the crank bearing clearance. The car was gonna be fine. But remember, it's gonna cause the very same issue. It's gonna break the pistons again. Because of what? Because of the crank bearing clearance issue. Because the oil pump is not supplying enough pressure to the engine. You see, even the lifters were making noise. So it tells you if it's making intermediate noise, like sometimes it's making that rattling noise, then it cools down, then it sounds like a normal car. So meaning the oil pump is supplying. Then when it stops supplying enough pressure, start making rattling noise. And what happens to the cranks and the bearing? the cranks are busy chowing, the crank and the bearing, they are busy chowing each other. That's why you will have metal shavings inside the oil. So it's gonna go back to that point of breaking the pistons again. And who's gonna be blamed now? Me. But they forgot that the first mechanic is the one who lied about the other things, and they are relying on his story. So I just want to clarify this low oil pressure issue thing, especially if the car is from another mechanic. Yeah, you can see I'm trying to remove the manifold and the tables and all those things. I'm still stripping down the engine. You'll see after the result after I strip it. We are going to inspect it inside. Yeah. So here you just watch and listen to my story. So yeah, that's how the story ended now. Now I'm to blame. But remember, I did the crank clearance issue, then sorted the low oil pressure issue at that moment. But remember, the oil pump that they said, they even confirmed that it was changed, is now causing the issue again. So meaning what must happen again? We must start again, change the oil pump, then go back. Don't do shortcuts, guys. Don't do shortcuts. This shortcuts of yours, that's why you have return jobs. Remember, I mean, I don't have return jobs. You can even ask people I've worked on their cars. They don't return. It's either you return with another issue, not that one. You see? It's this shortcuts that will make you have return jobs. And most mechanics, they like return jobs because it's bringing money, so they don't mind. Man, I'm working on my reputation. I don't like return jobs. So if I'm working on your car, I make sure we change everything before I get a return job. I don't have return jobs. So what's going to happen with the Vivo CLP? We are going to change the oil pump. Then after that, they are going to, okay, we are changing the oil pump. The problem is sorted. I'm going to say, no, the problem is not sorted. We have to change the bearings and take the crank again for, grinding or polishing. Because that issue of low oil pressure is chowing the crank also. You see? And now you see other people, they'll say, now I'm trying to chow their money or I'm trying to rob them. No, I'm not robbing them. We have to, and like, if it was up to me, I was going to restart the whole rebuild or whole whatever, fixing the issue from scratch. I was going to tear down the engine from scratch, then make them buy the oil pump. We buy new bearings. We take the crank in for polishing, or I polish it. Then we inspect the, remember, even the block can cause this. The cylinder sleeves, they can cause this. If they are worn, they can also cause that thing because the rings are not able to whatever. I want to explain. In my head, I'm having that word, but it keeps disappearing because I'm using English. So I was going to auto-translate to my language. But I know a lot of people won't understand. But you get what I'm saying, ne? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, remember, do not ignore the low oil pressure issue. Even if your engine is still sounding nice and is still driving nice, somehow it's telling you there's a low oil pressure issue on purpose, so that you can know that somehow the car, inside the engine, it's not getting lubricated properly. You see? So it's one of those things with the low oil pressure issue. You get your mechanics, they just focus on the oil pump, then the low oil pressure issue stops, then it starts again because the bearings are already chowed and the crank is already worn, or the cylinder sleeves is already, or the bore is already chowed. You understand? So I don't know whether to call them lazy mechanics or the shortcut mechanics. Because some of us, you are giving us names. You are calling us hood mechanics, bush mechanics. Yeah, it's fine. I'm doing the right things the right way under this carpet of mine, helping people the right way. I don't do shortcuts. And before I tell you to buy an engine, I'll strip your engine for free. And I'll tell you that, no, this damage is too much. We cannot fix this one. Or we can try and see. If you are willing to bet on that one, we can try to fix it, take it to engineering, they re-sleeve it, we do this and what. Even with the A45, I did the same thing. The block was warped, and at Mercedes they said they cannot fix it. So I decided, no, let's take these pieces. I'll rebuild the engine. I took the block to engineering. the Somara re-sleeved it. It's fine now. Then after re-sleeving, we are using the same piston. Remember, re-sleeving, we are getting the same pistons, same rings, same bearings. Everything is the same. They just re-sleeve. That's why it's more expensive. And reboring, with reboring, you are going to get from standard. Maybe you are going to get 10,000 piston heads, 10,000 rings, 10,000 bearings if you are going to grind the crank, if it's one. So you're going to get 10,000 bearings, new sizes with reboring and grinding. So that's how things work. Remember, there's re-sleeving and there's reboring. Reboring, you are increasing the bores, the cylinder bores, cylinder sleeves or cylinder bores, whatever. So you are going to get new sizes. And re-sleeving, you are just making sure they are having the right, the same size, all of them, the standard size. You re-sleeve to the standard size. So then you skim we skim the block. Then now the Mercedes is starting. The only issue I'm having is the pulse wheel on the intake camshaft. Is the one that is not getting the correct timing. Remember, the camshaft sensor must get the signal from the pulse wheel, the camshaft pulse wheel. If the pulse wheel is misaligned, then it will get the wrong readings. It won't correlate with the crankshaft timing. So yeah, it's one of those things. I hope you understand. If you don't understand anything you want me to explain to you or make a video of, you can just comment there and tell me, hey, I need a video of this and explain this and what. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to tell you guys. There's jobs from other mechanics. I am telling you, they're very stressful and dramatic. Look at the Polo Vivo now. It's the first car that I wanted to say, okay, you can take your car, it's fine, go get another mechanic. But now they are saying, no, we want you to fix it. You see, now I'm gonna change and they don't even understand. If I try to explain to them how a car works or how these things work, they don't understand. They just want to buy that part. One of those jobs, you know what's boring about the job when someone doesn't understand how the car works? They expect when they buy the oil pump, then everything is back to normal, the car is fine. Forgetting that it did other damages, so we must still inspect the internal engine, the internals of the engine, so that we can see, okay, everything is still fine. The cranks just need polishing or regrinding again or whatever. The bearings, new bearings. Remember, low oil price issue is causing a lot of damages. Like even with your Golf Rs or Golf GTIs, it damages also the camshafts. Once we get the low oil price on the Golf GTI and you keep driving it, forget. You are damaging a lot of things. The camshafts, they also get damaged. The cam plate, that cam cover, it also get damaged. Yeah. Just because your car is not stopping or your car is not underperforming or it's not stuck, then you think, I can still drive. I know a lot of people, they're still driving with the low oil pressure issues. I can even name their cars. One with the Polo 6R, one with the Golf 7 GTI, others I've sorted them. Yeah, they're fine. But others, I told them that I cannot help them now. So I know wherever they are, they took them to other mechanics and they're going to change the oil pump, forgetting that there's other damages that were done when they were driving the car. And now they are going to come back to me and say, hey, Mona, I took it to this and we changed the oil pump, but the low oil pressure issue light is still there. Now they'll expect me to do what? To work on the car properly. We take out the engine, we strip everything, we take it apart, we inspect it one by one. But I won't do that because it was my last job and I'm only doing it because I know the owner. So the rest, you guys don't listen. Someone will tell you that don't drive the car when you see a low oil pressure. Person, as long as the car is not making funny noise, as long as the car is still being able to start in the morning, you go to work. If you keep on driving the car like that with a low oil pressure, be prepared to buy a new engine or pay a lot of money like this. You can spend around 15,000 trying to sort out a low oil pressure issue. If there's reboring involved, if there's grinding involved, new pistons, new bearings, new oil pump. Be prepared to spend around 15,000. Then if we add labor, because you must know a mechanic is working like a slave there. You see a lot of things that are full on the ground there. You want to tell me that I must get paid? You guys think we are playing here? There's a lot of things that I must do here. You can see tearing down an engine is not child's play. You see, the whole time I'm working here, and I should be somewhere else doing the things that I like, maybe suspension overhaul, or doing just service and get paid to do just major service or minor service, house calls. But I'm here trying to sort out this issue. The issue that the car reported to you, flashing a red light there, red kettle. What do you think that red kettle is for? What? Once you see a red light on a dashboard, just know that if you continue with your journey or you continue to drive that car daily, you are damaging something. You see a red coolant light there, but you continue driving. Guys, let me tell you something. If you don't know about cars, if you see a red light there, just stop, pull over, stop. Then it's either to pay for a tow truck at that time, pay that 1,000 rand for local towing, or pay that 4,000 from towing maybe in the middle of Joburg and Kronstadt, or in the middle of Bloemfontein and Kronstadt there, to tow it this side or tow it to wherever you're going. That 4,000 or 10,000 or whatever, 6,000, tow it that side. Because let me tell you something, I have a lot of stories. Because now stripping this engine is taking law. So I did it on purpose. It's for my people who want to learn. Let me give you an example. You drive now. Let's say I'm going home. I'm going that side of Limpopo. Then in the middle of before Joburg and after Kronstadt there, the car reports low oil pressure or check coolant, and I don't have water. You see, I'm going to give you an example. To come back to Bloemfontein, it's around 400 kilometers. To get to Limpopo, it's around maybe 300 kilometers or another 360 kilometers left. So, what do you think is the plan there? I'll give you an example. If I continue with my journey, I'm damaging the car, and I'm going to end up paying around 15,000 to repair that car. Remember, I'm going to pay a mechanic, maybe a labor. Then I'm going to buy parts. Then remember, my engine will never be in the same condition if I force it to reach there, or I force it to go wherever I want to go with that low oil pressure or with that check coolant light. It will never be in the same condition. Once you damage your engine, it will never be in the same condition. Unless you do a rebuild, a proper rebuild, yeah. That's what I do most of the time. I do proper rebuilds. I don't like shortcuts. So everything new pistons, new crank, you do everything the right way. Yeah, maybe your car will go back. Yeah, it will even sound, nah. You understand? So I'm going to end up spending 15K because I forced to drive a car that is having a red light, a check oil light or check coolant light. Damage is more. Sometimes you might get unlucky. You decide to drive it. Then somewhere on the highway, Golden Highway, it shuts itself down. You must just know if it shuts itself down or it overheats and shuts itself down, or the low oil pressure, after low oil pressure shuts itself down. Then the engine locks. You know what's going to happen? Remember, if you stop there, you were going to pay around 6,000 for a tow truck to take you wherever you're going. Now, if it stacks or if you force, then it reaches, you are still going to spend around 15K to rebuild that engine. But if it stops, now the problem is more, because if it stacks, you are going to the very same tow truck you didn't want to call at the first place, you are going to have to call it, pay that 6,000 or 7,000 for towing. Then when the car gets there, you have to pay that maybe around 15K or 10k whatever. It depends on the car. Remember, everything depends on the car. 10k to rebuild that engine, and you still have to pay the mechanic. You see what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, you can see that I'm open. I removed the cam cover. I'm showing you what is happening inside. The screen is blocked there. That screen is blocked there. The screen is clogged, and that screen is the one, the oil from the oil pump is supplying the camshafts and the lifters via that hole, via that oil passage, and the screen is clogged. Maybe that's why we're having a low oil pressure issue. So there, I'm gonna remove the lifters. Remember, each and every lifters, if I'm removing the intake one, I must take it back to where it comes from. Each and every lifter, where it comes from, because of clearance issues. I agree we had a low oil pressure issue and the driver kept on driving. So I must take them and number them. Intake one, exhaust one number one, exhaust one number two, this and that and what. Because of clearance issues, I agree we had the low oil pressure issue. So yeah, there I'm trying to show you that the oil comes from the oil pump. It goes through that passage, through that screen that is clogged there. Then it supplies the camshafts and the lifters. So yeah, that's why maybe we're having a low oil pressure issue. And on my right hand, that's where you find the the oil pressure sensor there, on the cam box. So as I was saying, you must compare these things. One, it's better to see a red light, oil pressure light or coolant light, and stop immediately, get help, instead of continuing with your journey, because the expenses will be more if you stuck, and it will be more if you continue to drive, because you are causing more damage. You see? So it's better to spend on that tow truck that you avoid spending on. Call the tow truck, my man. Get a loan. Pay that tow truck if you don't have money. Don't force it. Because if you force it and you're stuck again, or you are unable to continue with your journey, the damage is done. You are doing more damage. So it's called damage control. I watch a lot of movies. I don't know what damage control is, but yeah, it is damage control. So you can see I'm taking out starting first with the exhaust lifters. Then I'm putting them that side. Then I'm gonna come back and get the intake lifters, because of clearance issues. So I must bring each and every lifter to its own place, whatever. So yeah, I hope most of you guys who are afraid of doing engine rebuilds, you can see how easy it is. You just have to follow the book and do things the right way. Do proper diagnosis. Don't be lazy. Don't be that mechanic whereby when someone says I'm having a low oil pressure issue, that guy just says buy a sensor. Then if the sensor is not working, buy an oil pump. Then after that, the things is sorted. Once you see that low oil pressure issue, it means the damage is being caused somewhere. Just know, keep in your mind. If you want to learn, I'm telling you today, I've fixed a lot of cars with low oil pressure issues. Even my Golf 7 GTI was having low oil pressure issues. So you see here, I was trying to use that impact wrench to undo the bolts, the top cylinder head bolts. So I saw those guys who like correct me that I must not use a ratchet. You see, now I'm not using a ratchet because I felt it with my hand that this will break a ratchet. So let me use this and use the jack, that jack bar. I'm supporting this breaker bar or whatever, strong bar. Then you see how easy it is to remove those bolts, because they were hard. I think they even applied what is this, Loctite on these bolts. Yeah, he did a wrong job, but he even applied Loctite. You will find he took the cylinder head with his own hands, using that in my language you don't have to use a torque wrench But you use your berekisa lešika la motete or o nganye di-bolts. That's how you talk them. Sorry for that language, man. I don't know how to translate it in English, but most mechanics will tell you they don't use a torque wrench. They use they can feel it, that is torqued enough. I don't know how, but yeah. And they will even tell you don't drive more than 108 or don't drive more than 120, because they know they torque this thing the wrong way. So me, after talking here, after doing the right things, let's say it's 40 and plus 390 degrees, I know after this I will test the car, I will drive it however I want to drive it, 180, yeah, it won't do anything. And also I want to touch up on this other story, guys. I once did a rebuild on this other car. So okay, we're changing the block, yeah, we're doing a rebuild. So that cylinder head was over skimmed. And you know what happened? I just used the normal washers and the normal bolts. I torqued everything according to manufacturer spec. Then after that, the driver drove around 2,000 kilometers. Then after that, oil started leaking between the block and the cylinder head. Oil was leaking there. Then when I checked, it was, yeah, I confirmed the oil was leaking there. And okay, I didn't have experience with that one, but I was told that there's a certain cylinder heads, if you over skim it to a level whereby remember, if a cylinder head is thick, then you skim it, it gets thinner. So remember, even the timing chain might start to rattle and all those funny things. So that's why it was leaking oil between the block and the cylinder head. They said I was supposed to use thicker washers. I didn't have experience with that one. That's why I don't like over skimmed top cylinder heads. They said I was supposed to use thicker washers, cylinder head washers. So that was new information to me because I didn't have experience with that. So guys, if you know anything about that over skimmed cylinder heads, some others they cause rattling noise from the chain, you can just comment there and tell me what can you do to avoid that. If the cylinder head is over skimmed, to avoid rattling noise from the chain, what can you do? If a cylinder head is over skimmed, to avoid I know, to avoid the pistons from hitting the valves, I know the some are cut inside the valves somewhere there. Then they make sure that the piston they don't hit the valves. So with regard to the rattling timing chain, you can please comment there. We'll be helping out others. What can be done to avoid that rattling from the result of over skimming the cylinder head, and that one of the oil leaking from between the block and the cylinder head. You can see I removed the top here, and I'm trying to clean the oil on the ground. So it's always good to clean around where you're working so that you don't look like you are a whole mess, you see. So I noticed that the block is the pistons are having too much play. That's why I'm gonna take the block to the engineering. Sometimes if it's having play like this, it's the rings are worn. But according to the information I got, this one engine was they did an overhaul. They tried to change the rings the way it is. So I'm gonna take the block to engineering. I don't want shortcuts. They will tell me that if the block is worn or the block is still proper, and also the crankshaft, because you can see the pistons are having play. So yeah, sometimes that play, if it's not too much, it's just the rings that are worn. So yeah, I hope some of you are learning something, and I hope some of you, if you are having experience, you can help out in the comments. Feel free. You can comment there. make referrals. You can refer me to a page of someone who did this or whatever you're talking about. Because sometimes it's not good to tell me that this is not the right way to do this, but you are not showing me how you do it. Remember, I'm showing people how I do my things. That's how I work on a low oil pressure vehicle. That's the standard, my standard. I have to strip and inspect everything. But sometimes, this one I just did it, I just stripped the whole engine because I found out that someone worked on it before, so I wanted to do everything, to check everything, to take the block there to engineering and the crankshaft. So others, if you've not taken it to another mechanic, if you are having a low oil pressure, it's the sensor is not working. If it's not sorting out, I test the oil pressure first. Then I inspect the bearings. If the bearings are still fine and the crank is still fine, then we change the oil pump. You're still getting that low oil pressure, then we inspect the top. We take out the cylinder head, we unblock it, we unblock Somara, even the block. And like we strip the whole engine, because now the low oil pressure is not disappearing. If it's not an electrical issue, there's ways to check if it's an electrical issue. If it's an electrical issue, hey, I wanted to give you this other information about this GTIs, how sometimes with these GTIs you may find that it's not the oil pump, it's not the engine, it's just an electrical issue. And there's a way of finding out how. Remember, these wirings, they correspond, I don't know how to put it. So if something is wrong, it might affect the low oil pressure the oil pressure sensor. I don't know if you understand. Okay, I'll explain it if I get another one with the same issue. Because I sorted this other one out. It was having a low oil pressure issue, but it was not in the engine or the oil pump. It was an electrical issue. And it was something that a lot of people couldn't fix. But I ended up finding out what it was, and it was a simple thing. Remember, that guy spent a lot of money only to find that thing. It was around 280 or 300, somewhere there. We replaced that thing. Then we did the proper wiring. Then it was sorted. It was not the oil pressure sensor. It was just an electrical issue involved. So this is the standard, guys. Stop shortcuts. Even new car owners, you like it when someone says, just buy a sensor, you run and buy a sensor. Just buy an oil pump, you run and buy an oil pump. Sometimes it can be a simple oil change. You just change from 15W40 or 30 to 5W40 or 5W30. Then the oil pressure is sorted. Because most of you like these cheap oils, man. These cheap oils. So hey, then you drive for a long time without changing oil. Most of you guys are not maintaining cars. That's the issue. And you are ignorant to those those dashboard lights. You are too ignorant. Once you see a red light, that tells you that something is failing. Continue driving, you'll see. Some of you are just happy when you start the car and it still drives. I saw others, they are driving while it's still smoking. He doesn't care, he's waiting for it to just shut down. You are damaging other things. So yeah, I've been stripping this engine for so long now. And I've been talking for so long, for more than, I'm reaching an hour while talking here. But yeah, it's for my people. If you are getting bored of me talking and explaining other things, I'm trying to show other people how things are being done and how I do my things. And I'm trying to tell them that don't do shortcuts. If you want to learn things the right way or do things the right way. Especially when it comes to low oil pressure. Hey guys, there's a lot of cars that are having low oil pressures. Never mind overheating, low oil pressures. There's a lot of cars and people are ignoring them. Some, they even started smoking. Yeah, even when your car is smoking, it can be a simple fix. Like, I know a lot of BMWs, I just go and change the valve stem seals, then the car is fine. But there's ways to know if it's caused by valve stem seals or the rings. I can tell you now, but you see, to see a car if it's the smoking is caused by the valve stem seals. Let me not talk about that one. Maybe I'll talk about them when I'm fixing a BMW, because normally BMWs, they smoke because of valve stem seals and the rings also. So I removed the oil pan. Just look at how the condition inside. Look at what is happening here. It's mud or sludge. But someone was working on this vehicle not so long ago, about 3 months back or 4 months back. Someone was working on this vehicle. But you see the condition. And the oil screen is not even clogged, but it's having a low oil pressure issue. That's why I'm saying the low oil pressure issue, I think, is caused by that clogged screen. You see that clogged screen is the oil that is from here, the oil pump, and it goes to the filter. Then after the filter, it goes to the top, the cylinder head. So now I'm gonna remove at least one bearing, one rod cap, one piston bearing. Then we inspect it. Then also we'll be checking the crankshaft. So yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, I've been talking too much, guys. But yeah, I know somehow someone is watching and someone is learning. And with the support of the comments, you'll learn even more. Because the comments are very helpful. There's someone who experienced this and they had shortcuts and it worked. And there's someone who experienced this, they'll tell you, I just bought a new engine to avoid wasting money. Sometimes you must just avoid. If you are going to spend over 15,000 trying to repair this engine, you might as well just get a new engine, because I think, okay, these TSI engines are expensive. I think they're around 35 or 30. But with the CLP, you can get it a CLP engine with 20,000. But when I are busy trying to spend over 15,000 or 10,000 to repair an old engine, guys, let's be realistic. Just go there and buy an engine of 20,000. Then you are sorted. These TSIs, I know, they're a bit expensive. I wanted to buy one for my Golf 7 GTI, and it was costing around 55,000. But to be honest, I already spent a lot of money, around 30k, trying to repair that engine, to fix that engine. You see, the bearings are worn. They were being chowed because of the low oil pressure issue. We were driving the car with the low oil pressure issue light. So we're going to have to take the crank and the block to engineering. So now I'm going to inspect the piston. I'm going to push out the piston and inspect it. Hey, I'm busy wiping the floor. I like cleaning. I don't like, you can see there's no lot of oil on the ground. See, now I'm gonna push the piston so that I'm gonna pull it from underneath. Okay, it's not actually underneath, it's on the block. Okay, mechanic is wearing white vest. Hey, I know you're used to those mechanics who show you the butt crack. But yeah, we are not the same. Remember, mechanics are not the same. Even the understanding is not the same. That's why you get other people, they are correcting me with this and this. Guys, we are not doing things the same way. The talk settings and the talk sequence might be the same, but I might not use the tool that you use, because when it comes to talking, you might use a breaker bar or a T-bar to talk the 90 degrees. I'm gonna still use that torque wrench. You see the piston is having scratches, guys. You see the piston is having scratches, and it's not supposed to happen. So that's why I'm saying I'm gonna take the block also to the engineering shop for measurement. And the rings look new, so meaning someone changed the rings here. He didn't do the right job. He just changed the rings and thinking that it will stop the smoking. But we don't do things that way. We must do things the right way. Which is why you will make owners lose a lot of money or use a lot of money instead of, you'll see, I don't know how to say it. A person will keep on buying this and buying this until he makes it, the budget is around 25,000 instead of just buying an engine of 30k because of you. You want to do shortcuts, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that. So yeah. Even though it doesn't look bad, the cylinder doesn't look bad, but I'm just gonna take the block for measurements, and also I'm gonna take the crank for inspection. But the crank doesn't look bad also. But yeah, I think this one is turning into a rebuild, because you see what I was talking about there. The piston is having scratches, but not bad. You can't even feel them. But yeah, the crank is still fine. But the other thing that was causing low oil pressure, I think, is because of this muddy oil, sludge or some type of thing. You see how muddy the oil is. Check. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm just gonna strip the block, take the block in, and the crankshaft, and also what else, the cylinder head. No, but the cylinder head, I think it didn't overheat, so I think the cylinder head, I'll just do it. You see the valves. You can even tell what was going on inside the cylinders. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take the block and the crank to the shop. Also one piston. So I think we're gonna have to replace this oil pump also. But it was not clogged. So yeah. can't even remember when I last time I the battery lasts. I'm starting with my English data. I can't even remember when was the last time I charged this thing. The battery is strong. Yeah. This one I'm gonna leave it. But it's just reducing the weight. Let's try you. So this crank plate is also having a mark. I once forgot it and the car didn't start. So this time I'm gonna make sure I put it on the mark. First thing, I was supposed to take it off before I put the engine in, but I thought I should inspect the crank before, because sometimes it's not necessary to remove the crank. But as you can see, the crank is having marks, scratch marks, so I want to take it in for inspection. Sometimes you may find that the crank is worn, but you cannot see it with the naked eye. So that's why I want to take it in. No manga business here. You just operate with shortcuts. When you see a low oil pressure, first thing you do is change the oil pump. You don't do that here. You must inspect the engine first. To see if we can save it. If we cannot save it, we must just buy a new engine. So you'll hear from the experts. Expert engineers. Hey guys, one day I'll tell you a story about this crank plate. I once did a rebuild on it was a CLP, yeah, and I didn't align this crank plate with the crank sensor. It's having a mark, a TDC mark. The car couldn't start. The whole week I tried to start the car. There was fuel, there was spark, there was compression, but one of them was delaying, so it was just backfiring. It was starting, then backfires, then it turns off. So the whole week I was struggling with it until I decided to remove the whole engine, then recheck everything. Then I found out that I didn't align this mark with the TDC mark. This plate here, the crank sensor plate. If you can't hear me clearly, guys, it's because I don't have those fancy mics. You can see I don't have a workshop. I'm working from home. Yeah, but yeah, one day. But it's actually nice to work on your own. You don't have a boss, no one to tell you what to do. Just that sometimes you need some assistance. But you saw almost I can remove the whole engine, then put it back on my own. It's nothing, that one. I've been doing it ever since I was a kid. Overhauling those V6s, V12s, V8, those old ones, the likes of Ford Cortinas, those old Chevrolets, and also my first car, the Golf 1. That one you cannot tell me anything. From Golf 1, I bought a Polo, the 1.6. I think it was a BAH or a BLM, somewhere there. A Polo boat. Also that one, I know it. Then from there, I bought a 1 Series, BMW 1 Series. That one, I also know it by head. It's nothing, that one. From there, it was a 330, the convertible one, the coupe convertible. That 330, I also know it, know everything about it. Just to strip it from that 330 to, what was the other one? The Golf 7 GTI. Yeah, I also used to rebuild that one. Every time I just see a problem, it used to have also a low oil pressure. I bought it with a low oil pressure. I got scammed. That guy said you can just change the sensor, then everything will be sorted. I took it from Joburg. While I was driving, the car started leaking water. It had a water pump problem. I changed the water pump. Then the low oil pressure, I changed the sensor, it didn't stop. I changed the oil pump, it didn't stop. Yeah, it already did the damage. It was just the camshafts. The camshafts were damaged. I changed the camshaft. Then after that, it was a bit proper. Then it started again. Actually, before changing the camshaft, it was complaining about timing. That's why I have the special tool here. It was the first car that I bought a special tool on. The rest I was just doing it with my head. Then that Golf 7, I know everything about it. Changed everything on that Golf 7. Actually did a rebuild. The low oil pressure that came back again, but it was not a problem of. Remember, I changed the oil pump, I changed the camshafts, the oil control valves, the sensors, everything. So the issue was electronic. You know, you must be clever with these cars. If you come across an issue and it's not mechanical, you see, this is what made the car to not start the whole week. I didn't align this. This must align with this. I'm not sure about this one, but with the CLP it must align with this for the crank to get the readings from it. So when I put it back, I thought this, you see this, I thought it's going here to the crank sensor. I just put it back, then the car didn't start the whole week until I got it right. Then I had to rebuild it to restart the process. Then I found out that this mark is not aligning with this. So yeah, it's one of those things. Remember, with the 3ZZ, I also struggled with the plate, and I think also on this A45 is the plate, because the timing is right, the marks align, everything aligns, but it's still complaining of camshaft timing, the intake camshaft timing. So yeah, it's one of those things, you live and learn. Yeah, as I was saying, with the cars that I've rebuilt before, is the Golf 1, those old V8s and V6s, the Polo, BLM, BAH, the ones that I've owned, the ones that I know everything about, the 330 BMW, 330 BMW 1 Series, then the Golf 7 GTI, then the Polo CLP, the Kia Picanto. Aye, that one is boring, man. It was a 3-cylinder. So the crank is not bad. The crank is not that bad, but it's having scratches, so I'm gonna have to take it to the shop. Just, it still look fine. Sometimes this gets finished, then the thrust rotors don't have anywhere to sit. So remember, this grooves, they face the crankshaft. So as I was saying, yeah, we can't all know everything. Some of the things we are just we are learning. I'm that guy who's learning every day, so even if you see something wrong here, you can just stay by the comments, say, yeah, you did this wrong, and yeah, next time I'll correct it. And if it's an unnecessary correction, there are those unnecessary corrections, like correcting me to use a strong bar or a T-bar and not use a top range or this ratchet, a normal ratchet. No, that one is an unnecessary correction. It's me who chooses which tool to work with. I know it can break, that wrench can, the ratchet can break, or the torque wrench can break when it comes to loosening those tight bolts. But remember, if you're having experience, you can feel it in your hand that no, this thing is gonna break. So that's why even with the top bolts, I took that strong bar, then I support with that jack bar. Then I was able to remove those bolts. So some of them, they are just unnecessary corrections. Hey, you don't use that. Don't use the ratchet to break those bolts. You use a breaker bar. No, it's my ratchet. I have a lot of them. So I do have a T-bar. I do have a strong bar, a breaker bar, but I just decide to use whatever is closer by. So yeah, otherwise I'm gonna take them for inspection, these ones. For some of the things you cannot see them with your naked eye. Let me take out the thrust washers. So my battery is even getting finished, guys, so I think I must just cut the video here. So if you want to ask something, ask there in the comments. But remember, this was supposed to be an overall, just to change simple things, seals, the rings and the bearings. But now I've noticed that there's a lot of issues inside this car. Like you can see, even the oil is sluggish, and we're having low oil pressure issues, and the crank was about to be chowed. That's why sometimes when you see a low oil pressure, you must not continue driving the car, because you saw the bearings, they were having scratches, so it means it's due to that low oil pressure. So maybe he's lucky, we are sorting it out. So we're gonna hear from the experts to check if the crank is not worn and the rest. So it's becoming a rebuild now, because we're gonna have to do everything, we're gonna have to inspect everything. Then if we have to so yeah, I did manage to take the block to the engineering shop and the crank also. So they did measurements on the block and the crank, and they said the block is damaged and also the crank is damaged. So they are going to have to do the reboring on the block and do the grinding on the crank. So, and also get new piston heads, the new sizes. Remember, we are moving from standard now to 10,000, new bearings 10,000 and all those things. So yeah, guys, like I said, comment there in the comment section if we must advise the owner to get a new engine. I'm not sure how much this TSI engine, 1.4 TSI engine costs, to get another, to buy another engine, or pay that 9.8 or 10,000 for the engineering people to do this whole thing. Then I come back, I reassemble the engine, or I don't know. You can make suggestions there or any recommendations, because so far I think it's going to cost a lot of money to do this, because it was supposed to be an overall. Now it's going to turn into a rebuild because of the damage that is being caused. So I think depending on how much the engine is, I was gonna advise the owner to just buy another engine, but I'm not sure yet how much the engine costs, but I'll compare the cost. So other guys, some of you guys know how much the engine is, so based on the labor amount, I'm not gonna mention the labor amount, the labor amount of this people of reboring and grinding and piston heads and whatsoever, and my labor amount plus the parts is supposed to buy. What do you think? Is this supposed to just buy a new engine, another engine? If you check the engine, how much is the CAX 1.4 engine, and you check the cost of, already we're on 10,000, we're going to spend 10,000 to get the block in the right condition in the crank. We're already going to spend 10,000. So yeah, please comment there, and thank you for watching. If you want more of this content, those who said it helps them, longer video helps them, please comment there.